Welcome everyone to the Conservation Measures Partnerships webinar. This webinar today focuses on the Conservation Standards Toolkit, which provides a series of recipes for lighter conservation standards approaches to various scenarios that conservation teams may encounter. So just a reminder for you all, the CMP and CCNet folks, that there is a CMP quarterly call coming up next week. It's on the 27th of June at 3 p.m. Eastern. So this is just a little prompt for that and a reminder. And if you need the meeting invite, just pop me a message in the chat or send me an email. Marsha, I've created 4 breakout groups for you. So we're sorted with that. And I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, great. I am going to share my screen here and put this into presentation mode. So welcome you all. We are going to tell you a little bit about Recipes for Conservation, a conservation standards toolkit. So I'm going to let you decide what the topics are based on the stars. Looks like we'll probably have theories of change, data analysis, indicators and monitoring, and maybe scope and targets, but I'll let you figure that out. Okay, so our objectives for this session are that Conservation Standards community members will learn about the Conservation Standards Toolkit initiative, that you'll all get a chance to practice using the examples and resources, and we hope that you will add to them if you know of some resources that you think would be helpful for your colleagues. Oh, come on, there we go. Okay, so our agenda, we just asked you to do a little exercise to tell us, what you want, what group you want to be in. We're going to give you a really brief overview of this initiative. Then we're going to work in groups to explore particularly the examples and resources. You're going to have 30 minutes in groups, and then we've got a quick wrap up. So this initiative has changed names, and I think some of you who are on this webinar probably participated in voting on a new name or providing input into this process. Our old name was Lighter Approaches to the Conservation Standards, a cookbook. And that is, well, I'll explain in a minute. There's still some parts of the suite of products that we've developed that are lighter, but not all of them are lighter. And so because of that, we've changed the name a little bit to Recipes for Conservation. We still want to keep the cookbook theme that I'll explain in a minute, but not have the lighter quite so front and center. So Recipes for Conservation, a conservation standards toolkit. So there are 3 products that we have worked on. One of the main products is this Recipes for Conservation slide deck that includes, and Caroline's going to jump into it in a minute and show you a recipe, but it includes recipes for different scenarios. And really the lighter part of this whole initiative and the tools that we have developed are these different scenarios. We want to make sure that conservation coaches recognize that depending on what you're doing, the conservation standards provides you a whole lot of tools or a whole lot of ingredients that you can choose from. And sometimes you need a lot of ingredients and sometimes you only need a few. And so this is really the lighter part of this suite of tools. But for the examples and resources that we have for specific substeps of the conservation standards, not all of those are light, which is why we decided to shift the name. So let me just tell you a little bit about who we are. So this is our team that has been working on this. Oh, come on. There we go. we have at several different points in this process been requesting input. So when we first started out in 2021, we surveyed folks in the conservation standards community and asked people what they needed and started building these tools based on their needs. And then as we were going along and had initial drafts, we had several different consultations. So in September 2021, and then there was a virtual rally later that year. Then we had a webinar in early 2022. Then there was the in-person rally later in 2022. Then we had a webinar about a year and a half ago, and now we're here. And along this process, we have been working on things and seeking input from you all to make sure that what we're doing is responding to your needs. So what we have always been aiming for is a quicker and easier approach for conservation project teams. So the idea here is that if you are a coach that is working with a team, sometimes you need to reduce the amount of time that the team invests in the process. That doesn't necessarily mean reducing your time as a coach. Sometimes reducing the amount of time that they invest could even mean a little bit more time from the perspective of the coach. We want this approach to be, of course, based on the conservation standards steps and sub-steps, but to offer some simpler processes and tools. We want it to be flexible and clarify that tools can be modified to meet different needs. We don't want people to feel that you have to go through the conservation standards, sub-step by sub-step, religiously doing every single sub-step. We want to explain which tools to use under different circumstances and really emphasize that what you're trying to do will influence what ingredients you need. And we want to focus on the principles rather than tools, and clarify what is a must-have rather than what's recommended. So the cookbook is based on these recipes. So we chose to prepare this manual as a cookbook with recipes for different scenarios. Scenarios being like you need to develop a monitoring plan versus you need to develop a full conservation plan. Because we believe that using the conservation standards is a bit like cooking. The ingredients that you'll need will vary depending on what you're trying to prepare. And you can adjust the recipe based on your preferences. And as you become more experienced, when you're early in your cooking career, you tend to follow the recipe. But as you get more experience, you can be more creative, toss in different things, try different things, and not have to follow things so religiously. We do believe that the full conservation standards provides you with the best recipe for project management. However, teams don't always have the time and resources needed. So our intention has been to provide some alternatives to help you with your cooking. And so the scenarios that we have are these in these gray boxes, everything from, you're going to do the full cycle, a quick spin through the full cycle, to full conservation plan, to just doing, monitoring plan for an existing strategy. And for each of these scenarios, we then have a recipe card that tells you what ingredients you need. And for this one, you need a lot of ingredients, what your directions are generally. And then for each of those ingredients, we have tip sheets with different approaches for how you can do this in lighter ways, and some general tips. And I am going to leave it there and let Caroline actually jump over to the actual tools and take you through them.
Great. Thanks, Marcia. So let me just share my screen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see a couple people are adding things to the chat, so please do keep using the chat and one of us will monitor it. I just want to show you quickly how to even find this resource. So I'm at conservationstandards.org. You can enter the site, and I would just go straight to the library, and scroll down. And actually, I should have done this beforehand and made sure this works, but I think it might still be under lighter conservation standards. Let me just try lighter.
I thought we had
Okay.
updated the title.
Yeah, okay. Toolkit. I'm going to do toolkit. Sorry, everybody. I should have done this ahead of time. Here we go.
Recipes are
Toolkit.
kind of
Recipes would have
a little
worked
slow.
if I had just hit enter. So I'm going to click on this, and we'll and then down here there's a list of the different things that Marcia had mentioned earlier. There's the list of the scenarios. There's the example and resources toolkit, which is what we are going to be focusing on mostly today. And then there's an overview video just to help orient you. So if you need a reminder, you can go back there and look at it. The toolkit itself is here. And for this to really work well, you should look at it in slideshow mode. I'm just going to go here to start and slideshow mode. And if you do that, it operates very much like a website. So you can click on SMART goals and you'll end up in SMART goals. And there's the basic information about that topic, some general tips, and then different ways to approach developing SMART goals. So maybe you might use viability assessment, and it's going to navigate you over here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, just wanted to show you kind of how the orientation is. But I do want to click over here to the example and resources tab. This is where we're going to be spending our efforts today. And that should, so from there, we've got a menu over here, and I can just go straight to target viability. I think it probably should have directed you there, but there's a lot of internal links. So not everything's perfect. And if you do notice anything that seems like it's not quite right, you could just let any one of us know, or even just send a general email to the CMP info, and that will get to us as well. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So under each topic, there is a section where there are general resources for the topic, and those apply broadly. They're tools or resources that can be helpful for you. But then more specifically, there are, if we go back here, and actually, I should have gone to the goals part. Let me go to the, sorry. Let me go to the goals part of this document. So there's the general resources here, and this first one is use viability assessment. If we go back to this, that's related to this particular one, and you can see we also, our other options are existing goals and consult key people. So in here we'll have existing goals and consult key people. So what we've tried to do is provide a set of resources that are applicable at a general level, but then also more specific resources related to the different options for addressing that particular topic, that step or sub-step. That's basically how it is set up. From there, you can click on any of these links and it's going to bring you over. This is just one example to a spreadsheet template. You will very likely get the option to download it and you won't be right directly in the Google Sheet. I'm in here because I can edit it. I was one of the developers, but we want to keep this as a template. So you're going to get an Excel version that you download and then you can use. You can upload it and make it into a Google Sheet if you wish. So there's always a set of instructions. There's the template itself. In some cases where we've provided examples. And so you can take a look at those and just see if they're useful for you. So that's just an example of one resource. There are a whole lot here. Some of them are examples, some are templates that you can adapt and use for your own purposes. Some are links to things like Marathi software, where there's some tips if you are using Marathi on how to use Marathi for that particular step. And you'll see, even in some of the breakout groups right now that we have, that there are plenty of spaces where we've just said pending, or share your resource. And so this is not a fully developed product. It is a product that we will continue working on. And so as part of the exercise today, we're hoping that you'll be able to share with us any resources you know of that you think would be useful for this toolkit. That's just a quick tour of this. Again, focusing on the examples and resources, because that is really what we've been working on over the last year or so. And so that's kind of what's new and maybe you haven't seen yet.